Hi, I'm Lewis here at Microbyte, and I've just sat down with Tom, Virtual IT Director here, and him and I have just been discussing the latest cybersecurity landscape and a new service that Microbyte are offering to protect small to medium businesses against cyber threats. Cyber Essentials, why have we chosen that framework as our benchmark?
When we've set up cybersecurity policies, introduced things to a business, Cyber Essentials is a recognised benchmark to measure yourself against. And I think some of that's important because it's all well and good having your own measurement of yourself and how protected and how much risk avoidance you've done.
Yeah.
But to meet a criteria that then is producing a recognised certification is important.
Yeah. And I'm not sure if you know, but you can actually access the certifications publicly. So they're available and you can send them to any of your suppliers, customers.
Yep, you can't just put it in your signature. The best. There's a national database that your business will be searchable on.
Yeah.
And obviously there's some very tangible things that are valuable to you if you are on there. Some businesses that will do any sort of work or contract work out to the public sector, it's quite a common thing to be on that register.
I see.
But just, for yourself anyway, if that's not the business you do, having that can be a thing that will sway businesses to work with you, to partner with you, because they see that you're taking security seriously. Because ultimately you'll be handling their data.
Yeah. So it sounds like you've seen customers that we're looking after where their customers have asked for verification.
Yes. Yeah. They'll ask as part of a tender process.
Okay.
And that'll be a question for them they have to answer, and it's not always a quick thing to get in place. So it's better to attain the certification before you ask for it, because chances are that the tender process you're in may not give you enough time to scramble.
Also, it just demonstrates that you're proactive. It demonstrates that you're getting ahead of the curve, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
So, what about regulated industries? Because I've seen the BRC, for example, they carry out audits, and the FCA, obviously regulating the financial services industry. I've seen them asking more cyber security-based questions as part of their regulation. So is that something we need to be aware of, do you think?
I think certainly, because there will be crossover between the questions they're asking and the standards that are required for certifications like CE. All of them, obviously, the objective is the same. It's to scrutinise how seriously you're taking protecting your cyber infrastructure.
Yeah.
And inevitably, by going for a service like, or going for a certification like Cyber Essentials, it will very much likely complement if you're already being regulated.
Yeah.
So you may find there's actually a number of things you're already doing. And actually, from Microbyte's perspective, our managed service customers, there are very likely things they're already doing, like MFA, conditional access, that are already a required element of that. So there's crossover between all of this. All of these things, are trying to achieve the same thing, to reduce exposure to the risk that is so prevalent in the cyber environment at the moment. I suppose that's a good jump point. So I just mentioned our managed IT services.
Yeah.
And what we're obviously here to talk about partially is our managed Cyber Essential service. And some might say, well, why do I need that? Why is managed IT services not enough? Why is it not covered in that? Do you want to elaborate a bit on the distinction between the two?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So for many years we've been providing managed services. It was previously called IT support, but has now grown into a multifaceted coverage, I suppose. And cyber security is a part of that. We provide base level cyber security, multi-factor authentication, spam filtering, antivirus, etc. But now cyber needs to be treated as a completely separate element. If you're taking something like Cyber Essentials on, it needs to be treated separately. so that it gets the dedication, it gets the trained staff needed to complete that certification on your behalf. They're going to spend the time having sit downs with you, understanding what you're doing as a business, understanding what policies you have in place already, and that is treated as a slightly different conversation to a technical one, which is mainly where managed services comes from.
So with you've touched there on the distinction between technical and non-technical because of the policy requirements that Cyber Essentials entails. So I suppose, how does that look for a business? What sort of things can they expect to discuss with their cyber security partner?
So imagine this situation. It's quite common. You'll get a questionnaire from a supplier or a customer, and they'll say, have you got an IT access policy? And you'll think to yourself, I think so. But you can't always recall, or it might be in a SharePoint folder somewhere or in email somewhere, and it's difficult to stay on top of those policies. So what we provide as part of our service is a piece of software that sits on your computer. It monitors vulnerabilities, but it also stores these policies, and you can stay on top of them and see who signed them, who hasn't signed them. It will send email reports to the users to tell them that they need to sign them, and it just gives you one central place to be able to manage all those policies.
Presumably as well, if you need to update a policy for any reason, that piece of software will send out the updated document for the employees to sign, and that can be all followed up by the HR manager, the MD, whoever's managing it.
Exactly.
From that.
Yeah, you've got it. And if you want to push that out, it's so much easier than sending an email around to everyone or printing it out and going around on the desks and saying, have you signed the policy yet? And regulators love that. They love to see that you've got a place to stay on top of them. And it's just such an administration pain that this is a really simple solution.
You made a point there about, I think I have this document, and if I'm running my business and I think, and I check and I don't, and I think, where do I start? How do I get a password policy document created? How do I get this generated? What help could Microbyte offer businesses that really need help starting out?
It's a great question, and getting started is exactly what we help customers do. So we have a list of policy templates, which IT access policy, password policy, GDPR policy, basically a starting point for any customer that wants to make sure they've got all bases covered and all of the policy requirements you're going to be having within Cyber Essentials. We can provide templates. They can be tailored to your business, and we would sit down with you to do that. Additionally, you can just add your company logo on there, and then you send them out to your staff and you get them signed. It's a very nice, simple process to work through, and it just keeps it all in one place.
I'm guessing the value add there then is that the time saved from having to start this all on your own. Like there is documentation out there, I'm sure, on how you can formulate your own and whatnot. But
yeah,
the time that would take, without necessarily the insight of an organisation like ours that has been through this multiple times internally and with our other clients. That's the value.
Exactly. And we've all got day jobs. So writing policies is not the top of everyone's agenda, I can assure you. And I think it's important to have functions in place that guarantee that you are doing those things and just make it easier, because it's hard to stay on top of those changes, and having a central place to push it out to is exactly what's needed. Just as an example, you've got IT policies that you might need to modify over time. AI is such a big thing, as an example. You're going to need to write a policy about that so that your staff aren't putting customer data into these AI systems. Have you got an AI policy in place right now? If not, do you want a place to manage it? A cybersecurity service can stay on top of that sort of thing.
It really feeds into what the managed IT services methodology is about, whereby previously SMEs who can't maintain an in-house staff of IT professionals outsource those services to a company like Microbyte, where cybersecurity is usually not dumped quite, that's probably quite a harsh word, but it will be put on somebody else within an organisation already with a day job, as you said, already with other responsibilities. This is another thing them to manage.
That's right. And it's an afterthought a lot of the time. And sometimes that's too late. From a cost perspective, that's just too late. You've been breached. You're either facing reputational damage or actually financial damage directly.
Or both.
Or both. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So most clients don't have a dedicated compliance officer that's going to be staying on top of and maintaining this. They don't have a full legal team that are going to be managing these policies. They need help. They don't want to employ a lawyer to come over and write all these policies for them, and they don't need to, because a lot of the time you can cover this all in one place. So what's quite interesting is we see a lot of insurance companies now sending questionnaires to their clients to ask them what used to be 10 questions 3 or 4 years ago is now 40 or 50 questions. So we're seeing insurers really double down on that. And it'd be interesting to hear your thoughts on why that might be.
I think that being an insurer, being a cyber security or cyber insurance provider, they're recognising the risk they're taking on is only increasing. It's higher and higher and higher. And they need to protect themselves, and the way of doing that is to ask more questions, get more guarantees from the people they are going to be providing this insurance policy for. Basically to weed people out, weed businesses out.
Yes.
Too risky for them to insure.
So they're making sure that their clients are protected to a level, because they don't want to miss out on the business of cyber insurance, but equally they don't want to insure any man and his dog to protect them. And one of the things that we're doing as part of our service is if you qualify with Cyber Essentials and you take the service out with us, we will actually provide £100,000 of cover as part of that service already.
Amazing.
So which is something I'm really proud of.
And that's only going to be of benefit. I mean, if you already have cyber insurance, of course it's a complement to that you've got an additional policy on top. But maybe more important is for the SMEs where they're really starting out here. They don't have necessarily cyber insurance in place.
Yeah.
This is a service where you can get a lot of things ticked off in one go. So it's quite comprehensive, the offering.
That's right. And some people just wouldn't be able to be insured. Like we're seeing clients getting rejected for cyber insurance. Yeah. So on the one hand, you need managed services and you need a managed cyber service that is going to make sure your technology and processes are up to date. And equally, in the event that something does slip through the cracks and you do have a breach, you want to make sure you're protected as well. So the business risk that you're taking on by not doing these services or not taking these services out is huge. Like there's 60% more chance of you getting breached if you don't have these things in place. And that's just incredible, really.
That's phenomenal, isn't it? And this isn't, I know in the news we'll see stories about the NHS, large organisations and institutions, very high profile cyber breaches, cyber attacks, ransomware. And yeah, they'll get a lot of coverage, won't they? But what doesn't get a lot of coverage is the SMEs that are being hit weekly.
That's right.
Paying out ransoms, having to close up shop. The risk is there.
Yes.
And it needs probably to be shouted out about a bit more.
Yeah. And there's a really scary statistic. There are probably hackers in your system right now. And people say, oh, what does that mean? That's too, is it black magic, whatever. They're probably sat in your email systems. They've probably got email rules so you don't see them. And they're waiting for you to ask, oh, what's your bank details? And they'll jump in. They'll send a PDF with the bank details on. They'll have taken your logo off of another email they've seen. And your customer is then going to be paying into this fake bank account that isn't your bank account. And who's liable for that? Customers paid their money, but you haven't got it in your bank account. That's something you want to protect against. That's something you're going to want to make sure is avoided. And if it can't be avoided, insured against, both of which require the guarantee that Cyber Essentials can give you.
And the service that we're providing, of course,
correct,
caters for both of those things.
Yeah, so it's a good point actually. So Cyber Essentials as a framework is a brilliant starting point. Gives everyone a list of questions that are set out by the government and allows you to answer, do you have this technology in place? Do you have this policy in place? Do you have this process in place? That's where it starts. But a lot of companies will do that. They'll put all the effort in. They'll answer all the questions and then they'll forget about it until next year. Whereas we want to have a situation where on any day of the year you can be assessed and you'd be able to pass that qualification. Pass that certification. That's the benefit of having a service and having a company maintain it for you.
Yeah.
Because things change throughout the year. Staff come and go, policies can adjust slightly, and you can't necessarily wait another year until you review those things, which is where having someone stay on top of it really does help.
That's the difference between attaining something for almost the appearance of security, but actually following through.
That's right.
Keeping something going.
That's right.
Which also is a good thing in terms of the time. It's less of a end of year scramble. You've got something that's just ticking along. Oh, a little bit's fallen out. Let's keep that.
Exactly. It's much easier.
Rather than it all being coming back 12 months later and not recognising and having to start again almost.
You got it. Yeah, and so some people don't know this, but Cyber Essentials is a self-certification. You follow the questions, you demonstrate and provide the evidence, and if you meet that criteria, you receive the certification. Cyber Essentials Plus is where an assessor asks you to provide the evidence to them, and they will spot check some of the questions that you've answered.
And is that done at, like, if I was the business owner, they'd come to my office?
You have options. So if it's possible, it can be done remotely because, of course, some businesses have offices in different locations, but you want to cover the whole scope. So they can provide that remotely and they can provide it in person. But the important thing is that you want to be able to guarantee that the information you're providing, you're actually doing. You're actually ticking that box and you're actually putting those policies in place. It's not just a box ticking exercise, I suppose. So yeah, Cyber Essentials Plus is the audited version of Cyber Essentials. And the way that works is you must first attain Cyber Essentials, and then within 3 months of achieving Cyber Essentials, you then receive a Cyber Essentials Plus audit. You may want to adjust policies between that time, but within the 3 months, you need to then attain it because that's enough time for not too many things to change.
I see.
And,
so it's separate, but very much it's the jump-off point from...
The questionnaire is the same. There's no difference in questionnaire. It's just that you receive an assessment from an auditor, basically, to verify the answers that you've provided.
Is that something Microbyte can provide?
That's right, yeah. So we have two options. There's obviously the fully managed Cyber Essentials option, and then there's just an add-on cost for Cyber Essentials Plus if you want to take that out as well, which I'd recommend. We're Cyber Essentials Plus certified, and we've been that for a few years now. And I remember the assessors, they actually do want you to pass because the idea is education and improvement as a whole as a business. It's not trying to scrutinise or pick holes. They really do want you to improve from a cybersecurity perspective. So there's nothing to be scared of. It's just working with them and making sure that you've got a partner that understands how to answer the questions of your business and help you implement the solutions that are going to help you achieve that. So, which is what we're doing.
Fantastic.
And you get a bonus 100k insurance cover as well. Right. Well, Tom, been a pleasure talking to you. Thanks for going through our cybersecurity service that we're doing here. And I can't wait to discuss more.
Thanks for having me, Lou.